Welcome back to We Know Scripted TV, where today we know Industry Season 3, Episode 1. It's the premiere of HBO Sunday night's Industry. My name is Grace Leeder, but of course I'm not alone. First, someone who can't quite figure out how to turn on the motion sensor lights. It's Josh Wigler. Josh, how you doing?
I am a real man.
Uh-huh.
And I am, what's the other part of the mantra?
It's just, I'm a man and I'm relentless.
And
I am a real man.
Not a real man.
I am a real man and I am really relentless.
All right. Well, you heard it. We're not alone, Josh. Special surprise guest. It's Emily Fox trying to offload some Lumi shares to me last minute. I don't know what's going on, Emily.
Yeah, Emily, that was pretty transparent.
I have a really good deal right now. Just take it from me.
Yeah,
that's my pitch for the stock market. I have a really good deal. Take it from me.
No one's done that one before.
I have a really good deal. Very excited to be here talking about industry. We are going to be doing weekly industry podcasts here to keep the HBO Sunday night action going. So if you are discovering us because you stuck around after House of the Dragon and wanted to keep your Sunday night HBO ritual going, Grace, Emily, and I, we're the people you're going to hang out with because we know scripted TV.
We know IPO.
We know
that's right.
IPOs. We know so much about IPOs, and this will be the place, Grace.
You joke, but I have been doing my research.
I believe this.
I actually, and I feel like I left you in the dark because I was like, Josh, I found a really good explanation.
No, Kit Harington left us in the dark.
He did leave us in the dark. I don't know, green energy. I don't know. I found a really good explain it like I'm 5 that basically set me on the launch course of like understanding the show. I probably shouldn't reveal my trade secrets.
Very exciting.
You asked me to send you that link. I did not send you that link.
You're just gonna hold on to all of the you'll be the intelligent one.
Well, isn't that industry? That's industry, I think, right? Is like keep the cards close to the vest. Don't tell me what you're doing. That's it.
That's basically it. So folks who aren't watching Industry, we're going to explain to you what Industry is, what's going on Industry each and every week. This is a great water cooler show. Some wild stuff happens on Industry. Yeah. Emily, this episode in particular, a lot of wild stuff happened. I'm not typically one to like score an episode after I've watched it, like on a scale of 0 to 100 or anything like that. But if I were to grade the season 3 premiere of Industry, I would give it out of 100 a very pregnant 69 is what I would score it.
Shocking beginning to this new season, I must admit. Yeah, poor Yasmin. She's been through a lot. She walked in on some stuff.
Grace, if we told people over the last couple of weeks on the Tastemakers with you and Taryn Armstrong, I hyped it up on House of the Mermaid Dragon with Rob Cesternino. Kit Harington, aka Jon Snow, is here on Industry. It's like, keep it going. Come on. It's like Succession meets Euphoria. We're dropping these podcasts in the old Succession post-show recaps podcast feed. So if that's how you're finding us, welcome, and make sure you're subscribed to We Know Scripted TV. Rob has a website.com/scripted. And like Emily and I have also been doing a lot of work IRL, telling people like, oh yeah, Industry is coming online. You should probably check this out. Mm-hmm. And literally within the first 5 minutes of the show, Yasmin walks in on her father having doing 69 with a pregnant person.
This is fun. This is HBO. I told my mom to watch White Lotus, and there's a scene in season 1 that happens that then I was like, oh my God, I told my mom to watch that. So I'm past the point of embarrassment. The show is great. This was a tremendous episode. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, your advice to Rob Cesternino, which is watch it, don't watch it while the kids are around. Yeah, was a tremendous, safety feature of your recommendation.
Emily, we recommended our friend who's like in finance watch this the other night. And like he's got 4 small children.
Listen, we gave him all of the outs. We warned him very succinctly upon telling him about the show. He was also a fan of Billions, so he has been exposed to some of the sexual content.
Billions had no pregnant 69s. There were no pregnant 69s.
There was a lot.
Yet. Yes. Is Billions over?
Billions is done. There were no pregnant 69s of Billions.
Brian Koppelman would never.
Pregnant Emily 69 within the first 5 minutes of Industry season 3.
My brother works at a bank, and what do you think I'm thinking now?
Oh, geez.
Drew Leeder, if you're watching this, I have some questions.
But I think, like, in addition to talking about what happened in season 3's premiere of Industry, probably we need to do like just some general setup for the folks who are just going to listen to the podcast. We're just going to come along for the ride and get them some.
And what a ride it is.
What a ride it is. Grace, you did a great season 1 and season 2 catch up, a quick little primer that's also in the podcast feed for people to listen to. But like, I don't know, how would you describe Industry and what people are getting into? We'll do this quick around the horn.
Do you know what we keep saying Succession meets Euphoria, but I have 2 others that I think you get, which is also meets Suits meets The Wolf of Wall Street. I think are the I think if you can like round out the 4 corners of Industry, I think that gives you a good a sense of the show. It sort of has this businessy aspect that Suits had, but the like just depravity of stocks and Wall Street nature of The Wolf of Wall Street. And I think that the show has done a really good job over the course of the 2 seasons that have aired and this first episode of kind of, I think, it's very funny that we joke about, the pregnant 69ing, but I do think the show has reined in a little bit of the
gratuity.
I know, it's so funny that I'm going to say that, but
on the other side of like, there was a pregnant 69. Like, I saw Yasmin's dad's boner,
I know, but at the same time, that man, that's a bad man. He's, at least
after that, he disappeared. He's like, I can't be caught around anyone anymore.
Do you think that was just him being like, that's the first thing they had him film, and then he was like, I'm not going to be on the show anymore. They were like, all right, 6 months later. But I think the other thing in terms of season 1 is I think that the thing that for me the show does mostly well is, as much as I'm interested in knowing what's happening, I don't think the show actually cares if you know what's happening. It just wants you to feel the same emotions that these people are feeling, which is that they're in this high stakes world where people do anything to get ahead. And so what will these new young graduates who are looking to get a job at this bank, what will they do to be more involved in this world? And the sort of the more you get in it, the worse person you become. This is a thing of Succession. I think that we were like, if they were all good people, they would just leave Waystar Royco. And this is the same thing on this show, that the more they could get away from this industry, the better people they would be, probably, but to be better at their jobs and to succeed and have success in the world of this show, the worse people they have to become. But I think the show has found a balance of like honing in on the characters who I think are the most compelling in the show over the course of 2 seasons and now the beginning of season 3, and make us really interested in these people's stories, to the point where I think there's a chance that we just lost potentially 2 characters in the season 3 premiere.
One,
so we definitely lost 1. We might have lost 2.
Maybe
we'll see
3.
how much.
I don't know. We'll
see.
Emily, your takes on Industry. People love an Emily Fox seal of approval. Hello, I'm people. Let's hear your takes on Industry writ large from the woman who co-founded the Succession podcast on Post Show Recaps.
I forget that I did that.
Sharp Objects, Big Little Lies. Fox, you've presided over some HBO greats. Sopranos is playing in our apartment on any given night. Where does HBO's Industry land in the pantheon for you?
I mean, I think that, I did mention the show Billions, which is Showtime. So sorry, HBO, on that account. But I find it to be very much on par with what you said, Grace, about it being comparable to Euphoria, because it just feels over the top, laced with drugs and substances and sex. But I felt like season 3 opener was a little bit more, I don't know, held back with that gratuitousness that we usually see. Like, I think maybe it has something to do with Harper not being as prominent in this specific episode. But I think overall as a show, it reminds you of what it's like to be in your early 20s, where you don't really know exactly where your life is going, but you're pulled in by the glitz, the glamour, the danger, probably the money, especially. Like, most kids out of undergrad are not making uni, I should say, are not making this kind of cash right off the bat. So I think there's something very sexy and dangerous about working in finance at that age. But then you see how they're older people that have gone up the ladder of success, so to speak, and they're just getting spat out left and right, and they're really aging poorly. They're not taking care of themselves. Their relationships around them are crumbling. We see that with Eric in this specific episode too. It shows you just how ruthless this industry is, and saying, I'm a man, I am reckless. That says everything, right? It's very toxic. It's very masculine. It's particularly unfriendly to even like the second generation of new hires that are women that are working under Yasmin. We're seeing everybody talk back down to them and really like throw them into the ring of, you know, sexist sort of treatment, right?
Yeah, someone's name is seemingly Sweet Pea. I don't think we get a name drop for that character.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And Yasmin's part of the like a cog in that machine, even though she had to go through all of this abuse herself in previous seasons and seemingly sort of like made good with everybody and got out of it, but then just turns back around and dishes it to the next gen. So it's very very telling, I think, in sort of this specific industry as a whole. But in this UK version of finance, we're seeing it, and it's painful, it's compelling, it's very interesting, and yeah, I'm excited for season 3.
And if you're here from House of the Dragons, Kit Harington's here, and he's shirtless.
He is shirtless.
He is cut.
In fact, he's not shirtless the whole time. And when he is wearing shirts, he's like wearing them wrong.
He made up for the scene that he filmed shirtless by wearing 2 shirts in every other take.
That 2 lime green, the t-shirt over the lime green like polo is fantastic. That's
and
a
he
great
had, like,
look.
half his collar was like tucked in. Like
So
like they did such a good job of like making him look schlubby. And then later he's playing like. Is he playing? It's not racquetball.
It's like hand squash.
Hand
like
squash?
Handball probably is what you
Squash
call it, I
hands?
guess. But
I don't know, some derivative of the like whitest sport you can think of.
He's like
somehow they took a white sport and made it whiter. I think.
He's so
Put
hot.
a bunch of pale Englishmen in a dark small room hitting a ball.
The brick.
Yeah,
the brick
couldn't be
wall
whiter.
He's so hot. This Henry Muck that he
Henry
is.
Muck, great name.
He's playing great name. So so I guess if you enjoy whether you watch it or not, we're gonna try and describe to you what happens in industry throughout season 3. We will jargon as best as we can jargon, but we will mostly talk about characters and vibes and like the crazy shit that happens on industry. So just stick around, I'd say. But maybe spoiler alert, we're gonna get into huge spoilers from the industry season 3 premiere. So if you were planning on watching it and you haven't watched it yet, go watch it. And then should we do like a commercial break? Should we say come back on the other side of this quick commercial break? Stay tuned. I think I just did. I think I just said it. So we're back. We're back now.
Amazing.
Grace, lead us through. What do you want to talk about? There's so much to talk about in this episode.
I mean, we do start with Yasmin on the boat and everything that's happening there. So I think that's probably where the show, that's where it chooses to start. And maybe that's where we should start, which is that at the end of season 2, she has been cut off from her father. She ends up leaving Celeste and the personal wealth management team and sort of seems like she has nowhere to go. She's in the same clothes. She's on this boat, which I believe is called Lady Yasmin. I believe the boat is called Lady Yasmin, named after her. And things are not going well. And she runs in on her father doing some stuff. And then we cut forward 6 months later and she's sort of in the press. So I guess the way that the story is starting is that although she got cut off from her father at the end of last season, it cost her the personal wealth management team job. Turns out
like she ran back.
Well, she did run back, but then also maybe it was completely right to not be affiliated with her father because the press is now after the father for potentially embezzlement. He's disappeared. He's on the lam. And so Yasmin is trying to just play it cool at work while nobody else is playing it cool.
Yeah. And a big part of this is like we've jumped forward through time.
6 months.
We've jumped is it 6 months since the end of season 2?
Well, I imagine it's actually a little bit
longer,
further,
right?
Only because by the time we meet Yasmin, she's like on her father's boat. So there has to be some time there
for reconciliation. Yeah.
Reconciliation. And then 6 months after the boat.
Fox, how do we feel about a time jump? We time jumped past like a lot of like really like dour, depressing endings for most of the characters in season 2. You think a good call or should we have like lingered in the misery more?
I'm not mad at it because it felt really miserable, as you just said, to watch everybody kind of fizzle out and really crash and burn at the end of season 2. So I wasn't really interested in following what Harper's next move was going to be. Just seeing her, in this new role, seeing Yasmin on her dad's boat, where I'm like, whoa, how did that work out? And then back at Pierpoint, where you're like, what are you doing? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, and like the Harper spot too. Like she's sitting right next to Eric.
Yeah. So it's sort of I think interesting. I kind of like it because it makes you think back to like, what did they go through without having to go through it? And that's the point of a time jump, obviously, but I think in this particular instance it works well in the story.
So there's also a moment we're gonna get later where it does seem like she has a bit of like she remembers something that we get very quick cut to, so we're going to play with the time jump in that sense as well, that there is, I think, obviously more to the story other than just like
her dad disappeared.
Her dad it's not the moment that we saw, I think, that makes her dad disappear. I think it's something else. It looks like potentially him getting violence with her, that so we're going to play, I think, with that as well. But I'm sort of in the camp,
you think she killed him?
That would be quite the twist.
I mean, you see like a flashback really quick, right?
Yeah.
Where it is Yasmin killed her dad?
That's probably the way the show it's gonna go. I think it's a very good bet to put on the board of like, if this is the information we get revealed about why he's missing, is that she dumped him off the side of the boat.
I mean, that's kind of cool, actually.
She's kind of holding it together pretty well if she murdered her dad.
I will say though, they did a very good job with making her look pretty like exhausted and like world weary, right? Like she has a look on her for season 3 where she does a very, like, the actress does an excellent job of just being very sad looking.
Marissa Abella is
and you can tell that like there's not this same sort of like innocence and wanting to do good energy. Like she still is trying to, keep her job, and she wants Eric to be impressed. She wants to still be around and be trading and doing all this work, but like there is a sadness there that is so well acted and conveyed, I think, for the audience, that I'm just very impressed by.
Which makes it it's so great when she later in the episode has like some moments of joy when like she and her lawyer and Eric go on a bender. I just also would
that be a moment of joy, or like I don't know,
the Euphoria for sure, not the show.
Okay.
And for the people who don't watch industry, when we talk about Eric, we're talking about Ken Lung, aka Miles Strom from Lost, and he is like just utterly iconic on this show. And so Eric, who's never like really in the sex and drugs storylines, is like really in the sex and drugs storyline of this episode, where he and Yasmin's lawyer just go on a crazy bender, and Yasmin wears like a lawyer wig because they do that.
It's very good.
She looks incredible, like Yasmin doing her best George Washington.
Right.
I mean, the way the storyline's tied together here is that you sort of have Robert with Henry on the eve of Lumi going public and there being an IPO, and Eric's team, his sort of new team that he's assembled, which includes Yasmin, the aforementioned Sweet Pea, who I can't believe her name is Sweet Pea, and Kenny as well on the team.
Venetia's on the desk, I believe. Also, that's she was Robert's sort of like mentee last season. Who it seems like is he dating her now?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, and he leaves her to go hang out with Nicole. Hang out. And then she
more to come.
Yeah. So they're on the verge of Lumi going public, and this is really big moment. And essentially, like, the thing about Israel that I think if they just sort of explained this better, I think it would make the show, because this is the thing that unlocked for me, is basically they work at a bank, and the bank has a vested interest in companies that they financially support. Obviously, like they probably gave Lumi a loan and whatever. And it's these companies that are having that are becoming public and going to sell stocks or shares or just starting up. And the bank wants to sell as many stocks to the richest people so they can buy the most amount of the stocks for about as low as you could get when it first opens as a stock, so that later those people can sell the stocks when the company is successful. And so they have a vested interest in making sure that the companies that they're selling the stocks for, not only can they sell it to very rich people for a lot of money and a lot of stock interest. But that the companies will actually be successful because they can sell a bunch of stock to a company that's then going to fail. And that's basically now the central premise of seemingly this season, which is Lumi goes public, and can this company be successful? So in the morning,
one of you explain to me what Lumi is?
Green energy,
Kit
baby.
Harington's big news story.
Cheap green renewable energy. I imagine it's like, solar panels for your house, like that you can put up in your own, that you can like save money on your energy bill every month. That's, I think, like the premise of Lumi, basically.
We're giving clean energy back to the people, Fox. That's what's happening here.
I mean, it's a trend that we're seeing in real time where it's a lot of sort of socially conscious and responsive funding and renewable energy sources, et cetera, getting people excited about investing in alternative energies and thinking more holistically about what the world is going to look like. And we watch Harper kind of laugh at that. And we also watch it in the boardroom when Eric gets promoted. We have like this ancient man who's on like, one of the talking heads at the table who basically like cuts down the entire sales concept of greenwashing.
That dude's MAPA. Or is like make Pierpoint great again. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
But he's my pa.
That's my
pa. Because he's old.
Yeah. I love that we keep saying Pierpoint because that's a street near us. So I'm like, no, it's Pierpoint. But yeah, it's it's something that's happening in real life. So they're mirroring a lot of what's going on in actual markets. But
last season with like short stuff, like GameStop stuff, they're very topical. They've done a little bit of crypto stuff in there as well. So
COVID was part of like the storyline of season 2. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we write what we know, isn't that right?
Write what you know, for sure.
Yeah. Well, so basically, Eric's on the verge of this big deal, and he's actually been made partner as well. Yeah. This was a big plot point, and he's
ironic because he's been left by his partner.
That's right. Well, you lose a partner, you try to gain a partner.
Yeah, lose a partner, gain a partner.
Yeah. And he's told, he's like, you gotta like look like a boss, man, and you probably got to fire someone. And I don't know that's exactly what the guy said. He basically is like, you maybe should fire Yasmin, and he's like, I got to fire somebody. It's like, and he does the exact same thing I think he did with Harper for so long, which is, and he does say like, yeah, I had like a wild card at my desk, but like she was great, but I fired her, so I'll fire you too. But he basically like lures Yasmin into the same thing, basically the exact same Harper spot. By the end of the episode, going to end up firing Kenny, who that's a rough episode for Kenny, who seemingly helped Eric through his separation and then gets fired.
Kenny has been a whole ass journey.
Kenny's wild. It's wild character.
Kenny was like among the shittiest of shitbags in season 1, just like horribly abusive to Yasmin, horribly abusing substances, and then in season 2, he's on his like rehab tour. And he has that moment where he does like, he tries to, he gets the amends step with Yasmin. He's like, I'm so sorry, Yasmin. And then later she rips him in half. And so like Kenny like seems like, I think that the creators of industry, Mickey Down and Conrad K, they did a really good interview post-mortem on season 2 after season 2 wrapped, where they talked about how like, Kenny has Yasmin on such a pedestal, and like the way that he's like, putting all of his own self-worth in Yasmin forgiving him, which is, I think, a big part of why Kenny ends up being the one who he took Eric in after Eric's separation, and Eric goes on a Jim Beam bender, and then Eric ends up firing him because he's an attachment to Eric's weakness. So Eric has to be a man and relentless, a real man and really relentless. So he kills Kenny. And then Kenny,
oh my God, he killed Kenny.
And then Kenny, you bastard. And then Kenny goes to Yasmin. Emily goes, how could you do this to me?
Well, here's the thing, though. We're still seeing that Kenny is being a jerk to the other women that are underneath Yasmin, like what I was saying earlier. So, like, did he really change, or
I don't think so.
He's just trying to like turn it on for Yasmin until things go south for him. Kenny's an interesting character, though. I mean, obviously,
we'll see more of him, or is that it for Kenny?
I bet you we do. Just because he keeps getting brought back, so like you can't kill him, right? Yeah. But Rob was really supposed to be the one slated for the chopping block that day, And then we see that he's not doing well.
Well,
so I mean, we know why. It's not great.
Yeah, we got death, like actual death, doesn't happen all that often on Industry, Grace.
Except for the first episode of the show.
Except for the very first episode of the show where death happens on the show.
Yeah.
That's tough. That does happen on the first episode of the show, but here it's Nicole, his client, his like super wealthy client who is like a sexual predator. He called her out about it at the end of season 2, and then was just like, all right, but keep like being a predator to me. And like we saw her with Harper, we saw her with Venetia. Rob's whole story in season 2 is how she's taking advantage of him. And however much time passed, it seems like they kept their relationship up until the bitter end, Grace, because they go to sleep outside in like a cold, gloomy, rainy day, and Nicole just like pieces out, dies in the night. Like that is a very abrupt, surprising end to one of the show's most recurring storylines.
Yeah, and this is partially why I don't think we've seen the last of Kenny, because I think that like we've lost Nicole here, who's not like the most central figure, but was very central to Robert's storyline. I think this is very interesting. Robert is
not my Rob and Nicole, by the way.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
This
yeah,
is
that's
not
very
my
funny
Rob
that
and
you've set up them to watch a show where there's a toxic relationship between a Rob and Nicole. That's funny. Robert is the whole time he's such a sad sack. He's so the whole time is just like, season 1 is so much about him and Yasmin and him being sort of controlled by Yasmin that I think like sets us up into season 2, where there's like an even more powerful sort of like woman who he's willing to sort of like, he calls her out. He's like, don't do any of that toxic behavior to me. Oh, you can do it to me. Just don't do it to anybody
but
else.
Not to anyone else.
Not anybody else. He stays in the car. I think that this is an interesting moment for Robert, because he does have the moment of trying to stand up to her, but also now then he doesn't. And the idea that this relationship can end, he will never have probably real closure in terms of his relationship with Nicole because she died. I think is, for me, I think Robert is sort of the least serviced characters of any of our main characters, in terms of we don't really know why he is the way that he is. We don't really get a ton of backstory in terms of why Robert sort of is drawn to women who are like sort of controlling and tell him what to do, and that's the sort of how he's happy in these relationships. The problem is that he's drawn to like toxic ones, and so
his relationship with his dad is bad, and we assume that his relationship with his mother was not
probably
wonderful.
Not great. Yeah.
But the thing of like, we've never really
delved into it.
Never delved into it. And I do think this sort of gives us a moment where he potentially is like, I think we need the time for him to not be in a relationship, for him to not, and I was kind of in this, professional relationship with Henry Muck, who basically tells him his luck has turned bad since he met him. But then the end of the episode is like,
I used to have good muck luck, and now my muck luck is in the muck.
Yeah. So I think that this for me is like, and then Nicole is, she's, I think it's very well acted with good performance. It's like, she died, but
it's like, couldn't happen to a nicer lady.
That's right. Yeah. So I think that this gives us a lot of room to sort of explore Robert, who I think the show has done a pretty good job over, as I said, like season 1, I think has like some storylines that I'm not interested in. Season 2, I think sort of like trims the fat. And I think we, by season 3, I think like we've kept Robert around. Let's explore Robert. And now he's going to be, in this awful situation where he has to deal with the fact that he was there when Nicole died, and then he never like ended the relationship, and in fact had this like tender moment, with as tender as it can be for like a relationship with an awful power dynamic.
Yeah. Not great, Bob.
Not great,
Rob. Not great, Rob.
That's really not great.
Not great, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, this is all centered around the Lumi IPO. So yeah, Eric's team is on the verge of selling it. They go for their wild night out that does end up with Eric sleeping with the lawyer and Yasmin.
I love when he says to Yasmin, because like at first, like the threat seems to be like, oh God, are we gonna threesome?
I was like, please don't do this.
Yasmin and Eric.
Maybe
he just looks at her.
He's kind of like, could you please leave? Actually,
he looks at her and just goes, could you go?
Yeah, can you go?
I was like, thank God.
Yeah.
Like, don't do this.
Yeah.
Please don't do this.
But yeah, so in the next morning, his kids having been dropped off and in the office the morning of the IPO. But the other looming figure is obviously Harper, starting her new job at she's been working there for a while. She's at Future Dawn. She's very much seemingly like an administrative assistant for Anna, the head of Future Dawn. And we also meet Petra, who is one Sally Reed from HBO's Barry. I don't know
That's
if you
right.
know
Yeah.
Barry folks, but this was kind of fun. But Harper basically can't help herself but want to be in the Henry Muck of it, wanting to be involved in like stocks and trading, and is sort of relegated to moving cars, which she doesn't do, and handling spreadsheets.
She seems like a terrible assistant. I don't know. I would never have hired her. I would have been like, oh no, you're too much of a wild card. And if you can't remember to move my car, then I don't trust you to do most other things. But I also wouldn't task someone with moving my car. Maybe I would pay for a parking spot where you didn't have to move your car. Aren't you the head of like a major like firm? Can't you pay for a parking spot?
London parking is like, I don't know.
I would assume it's probably terrible from what we've seen being there for a couple of days. But
is there not a lot?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like a subterranean parking garage.
Maybe they do alternate side like we do here in Brooklyn.
Yeah,
but like either way, like that's only a couple hours of your day. That's
and like Harper doesn't drive in the UK probably, and so like even though she's been here for a while, she's like, I don't know which side.
She always gets in the wrong side of the car.
Yeah, right. It's like I can't drive. There's no wheel here.
There's no wheel.
It's like just look that way. Oh, yeah, Harper is already doing Harper things.
Yeah, well, Harper is Harper. So like, why are we putting her in a position where she's gonna clearly fail?
Well, it's very interesting. Okay, so Harper Stern, who like, if there is a main character
totally agree
on Industry, it's myha'la Harold as Harper. And she has, it was her story from the jump. She like faked her school records to get the job here. She wanted to be in Europe because she wanted to find her brother, who was like, presumed dead, but then like she got a lead that he was somewhere in Europe, and that resolved, quote unquote, in season 2 when she finally finds him in Berlin, and it goes poorly. And so that's sort of like out there, but she's built a life for herself now in the UK. She's like a ruthless shark. She's willing to like shank whoever she has to in order to advance her career. R.I.P. DVD. I don't think we're going to see him again anytime soon, especially after a time jump. So she's been ruthless, and Eric, like firsthand, who was her mentor, like the Walter to her Jesse. It's like the Breaking Bad dynamic. If it, instead of like Jesse is the one who starts to soften and be like, yo, Walter White's a prick, it would be like if Walter White was like, yo, Jesse Pinkman is getting a little like crazy. And so like Eric cuts her down and fires her at the end of season 2. And that's like the big thing. And so now she's still in the mix because Yasmin got her this job as an assistant. And Harper, Emily, she just cannot wait to mess this up. Like, she's just like, I need to like give you advice that's unsolicited about like Lumi seems like a loser. Like, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, Harper's just already doing so many Harper things.
I think that the interesting thing with Harper, though, is that she does have like the basic instinct of trading, right? So she hears Yasmin's voice on the phone when Yasmin's like, hi, I just wanted to see if I could sell you a few more shares. And she's like, okay. So like, what's going on? Like, she picks up the scent very quickly that things are amiss with the Lumi stock pre-IPO opening day. So like, there is like a level in which like she sees blood immediately and knows to go for the jugular, but she can't help herself either. There's not a level of like boundaries. There's no kind of ability to step back and self-regulate at least a little bit, or to see, beyond the fact that like, yeah, you can try to give unsolicited advice, but like, you should also probably move the car, get her a coffee, and do like 3 other things if you want to get further along in this. You know what I mean? She's not thinking strategically in terms of relationship building. In fact, I would say she's one of the biggest sort of failures in terms of relationships generally. Yes. Like, we've never seen her have a straightforward, caring relationship with
anyone on the show.
Like sociopathic levels almost.
It's been like either she's like tried to have sex with her friend and like complicate it that way, or
she slept with Rishi at his wedding.
Like she slept with Rishi at his wedding.
Right. Yeah.
She
burns every single bridge relationship wise, and that's why she's just too much of a loose cannon.
Well,
she's too much of a liability.
Great scene in this episode where Eric on the coke bender asks Yasmin, like, why did you get Harper the job? And Yasmin, who has been horribly treated and has horribly treated Harper in the past, but they've reconciled since, says, I think deep down she's a good person. And then Eric, who was in like this boardroom meeting with her in the season 2 finale where she just killed DVD and Rishi without blinking, Eric looks back at Yasmin and goes, I don't think she is.
It's brutal. Yeah. I think there's a thing I keep seeing as people are watching industry, and they're like, how does Harper have a job? Which now she doesn't, and she does, but she doesn't work at Pierpoint. But I think that the thing the show wants you to think is that she has incredible instincts for this, for this work, that she can sort of see where things are going, and she often like suggests things, and they seem risky, and so people don't take her up on it, but ultimately they mostly would work. She's sort of like a dynamo. But it is these relationships, and there is a moment in this episode that I think proves that if she was not sort of mostly motivated by being hyper successful in this world, she could have relationships. She comes back when Yasmin is waiting for the car from Henry, and she does have this like genuine moment with Yasmin that is different from the moment they have on the phone. I think she might even apologize about the moment on the phone, and this is a moment where she's just sort of like she has been sort of shot down at work in terms of like, no, we're not going to talk about like the portfolio of the business right now, just like don't stay too late, tomorrow's the IPO opening. And so she goes home with this guy. I don't know who this guy, we didn't really get to know him that much, which just bring him home. But then the fact that they're all still sharing an apartment complex maybe mostly seems to be like, this is how we will get scenes with them together. But there's this moment that does seem pretty genuine between Harper and Yasmin. There's a moment at the end of last season too, where they're at the wedding, and they're sort of like joking and giggling at the back of the wedding, just after Harper has slept with Rishi as he's getting married. But
then talking about how horrible they both are, like they're like
true. Bonding
over it.
Yeah. And so, she's sort of consoling her about the press, right? This is what this conversation is about, that if Harper could just untangle herself from being wanting to be involved in this industry, name of the show, industry, point at the screen, then they maybe could actually have a functioning she could actually be a normal human being, but she just can't help herself. I think mostly pointed out by the scene where like she sort of like puts on a front for Anna and then goes and finds Petra at the elevator and says what she actually thinks, which is that green industry is a bit of a joke, only for then Anna to have heard the conversation via the elevator. So,
well, Emily, green industry ultimately is a joke, because the opening day comes, they push the Lumi button,
zap, nothing works,
and not only does nothing work, but like it seems like all power in London has just gone out.
Yeah, which is not a great sign.
I don't think they can rehab that, can they? So is Kit Harington just done? Is that it? Did they just have him for like a gag?
He rips off one shirt to reveal three more shirts.
Damn it.
Well, I think the problem here is that, in terms of where we're going with the season, which is the stock did launch. It did not look to be at 480. I think it was at 430, which is, so this is the price point for the stock that they want it to be above $4.80 pounds. Apologies. This is in England. It does not seem to be there, but hoping that it would sort of start to rise as the day opens. I do think I think it's very funny for it to be a moment of like, you do green energy, you press the button and you're in time, like all the power, but the fact that the power goes out everywhere, is this a story point for are we in blackout, like London is in a power outage in London and that's the story of next episode? Or is this completely metaphorical of like, just as the button gets pressed, it's done? Or is this like a plot point for next? I've not watched the next time on. So,
yeah. We don't know. But I find it very compelling and funny, and
just a great like stinger to leave us on.
Right. Definitely.
Can we with Henry and Yasmin, because there is a little bit more there where he does so she gets a call from him and he says, "Oh, Robert gave me your number." And back at the apartment complex, she gets mad at Robert. She's like, "I'm going through so much. Why would you do that?" And he's like, "Well, I gave him your work number." And he's like, No. He has my personal number. So seemingly Henry Muck up to no good. Seemingly somehow
he talks about how like he's got like a family history as well. Right, where he's like, "Oh, my family."
It's two nepo babies talking to each other.
Yeah.
In the game, he's like, "That's my uncle and that's my godfather and that's this guy. This is another guy who's also rich." So I think, very much comes from wealth and has started this.
I believe he is a sir. I think he's a.
Yeah, we have a sir and a lord, I believe.
Yeah.
So he does invite her over. This conversation seemingly is basically like he gives her one piece of information, and another guy is like, "Oh, your dad actually owes me a ton of money." So was this a complete setup to like scare? Like, what's the point of Henry Muck calling?
I think it's intimidation. I think that he's compelled by her beauty personally, probably because he's like, "Is there more to her?" But you have somebody that controls one of like the premier rag newspapers that's been following her around and publishing all of this. Then we have the Godfather who's like, "Oh yeah, and your dad owes me a lot of money. So would you like to be his proxy and come to this club tomorrow night so that you can kind of like schmooze and or be on the hook for whatever funds are owed to me?" So like it's an intimidation tactic for sure. But then we have Henry being like, "But I understand where you're coming from. It's really tough to be in a family like this." And you're like,
yeah.
That feels icky.
And that man also invites her to a drink after he has lunch with a man named Gregory Clark.
Right.
He owes a big bill at the club they're going to. She needs to stop by as her father's proxy.
Yeah. Not good. I would try. I looked at Josh when I was watching this and I said, I don't think I would go to the club. I think I would try to avoid that.
Well, and which is really antithetical to Emily because Emily's always like, "We got to go to the club."
Man, I got to go to the club.
Like
tonight.
We wake up and I'm like, "What's up? What do you got on tap?"
I literally said that this morning. I rolled over and I was like, "Can we go to the club later?"
I was like, "Fox again?"
Yeah,
we're just at the club.
Always at the club.
We just got back.
You can find me at the club, actually.
Literally near me, there's a park where they have festivals, and every weekend there's been a food truck festival. There was a dog park. It was great. This weekend is like a rave, and I've never walked by something and said I want to be there less than anything ever I've seen in my life. Going to the club is
don't
not
lie to
my
me.
jam.
You had your glow stick in your pocket. You were like, "Do I take it out?"
That's why we did start late tonight. We did start late because I was at the club.
She only had her glow stick out because all the power went out.
I think there's a noticeable absence in season 3. I would say the show is not one to it has trimmed characters from its cast, but where's our boy?
Two major characters are withheld.
Where's our boy Gus? He got a job with Jesse Bloom, and he's just
no
relation to Mike, I presume.
But Gus did go full Bloom.
Gus did go full Bloom. Yes. So we lose. I mean, Jesse Bloom always to me seemed a little bit like there was a lot of potential for him to just be a one season character who's in and out. Doesn't seem like
quits at the end of season 1. And so it's like, what's going to keep him in the show? And we find like Jesse Bloom, who's a Duplass. I believe this is Jay, right?
Better Duplass. Yeah. I mean, Mark Duplass got nominated for his work in.
It's hard to keep track.
I
definitely like Uma Oprah, the Duplass brothers with great regularity.
This is Jay Duplass.
But he's huge big deal, COVID profiteer, and turns out to be like bit of a shit when he does the inside trading with Harper, like sort of like sneaks her into like this huge ethical violation.
I would never do insider trading. Ever.
Grace, the way you said that makes it seem like you like inside trade often.
Would never. My brother works at a bank. I would never inside trade.
Grace,
this is bad. I'm gonna totally get flagged.
Jess, cut this part out of the show. Shit, we're live.
No more Martha Stewart's in my life.
So one thing I'll say is the show there is some queer energy. Like Yasmin is with Celeste last season, and anybody will F anybody, I think, on the show. But a little disappointing to lose potentially a queer character of color here.
I don't think we will. I think Gus.
You think Gus is here?
I think Gus will be back. I think.
Can I tell you?
Bloom will be back.
I have a theory because I've been looking at everyone's name on IMDb, and he is 2020 to 2022, and everybody else is like 2020
so he's not,
2024.
No.
Yeah, I think he might be out.
I think that's too bad. I think that's too bad. I mean, I think that
I don't think he had a ton to work with towards the end of season 2. You know what I mean?
I think he's mostly one of the characters who I think for like he is involved in the insider trading, although it's not him who like he divulges the information, but it's not him who actually like is acting on it. Right. So I think he's probably the most morally good character on the show. This is where I get so worried, where I'll be like, I'll be Josh, we would be talking about Succession, and be like, this guy's great. And he'd be like, remember when he did this horrific thing? And I'd be like, oh man, I forgot. So I'm trying to just like fact check me on whether Gus did anything bad in the show, but
I mean, he slept with a teenager. There is that.
Okay, yeah. See, this was tough. It's just tough. But
he was a young adult, right? He wasn't a teenager.
But they're all supposed to be.
He's in his 20s,
early 20s. Yeah, 20s.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
The show does have I think that there's a tough thing with a show with a character who is supposed to be sort of like, more on the good alignment chart than the evil alignment chart, and I think that the show doesn't really know where to. So like literally by the end of season 1, he's out of Pierpoint, and in season 2, he's working in politics. And there's a way to weave that into the story. If they're sort of done with Jesse Bloom, but they've attached Gus to Jesse Bloom, then I'm not sure exactly what you do to work Gus back in. But that's kind of the things you have to figure. Like this is like there's so many great shows. Like Breaking Bad notoriously would like paint itself in, not that the show is exactly Breaking Bad, but like would paint itself into a corner that then it would figure out how to like maneuver out of. That like it does feel a shame if we've lost Gus Sack.
But doesn't Gus live in like the best friend flat? Isn't he Harper's roommate? So like
he was, but now it seems like they're in a different.
But he's flat. Like he's friends with Rob. He's friends with Harper. Like I think we're gonna.
But he also was like, I gotta move on. Like I really loved like talking to this guy. Mental health might be my new field.
This is the thing. It's a shame that the character's out of the show. But like we always have in Succession, like. You just gotta leave, I think, to be a good person. And now Gus.
And like, was he not therapizing everybody around him who stayed at Pierpoint anyway? Like, maybe he's like, I gotta go back to grad school. I'll see you guys later. Yeah. Like, I got some work to do.
Gus is as out of the picture as his blue hair, which he got rid of somewhere before the end of season 2.
That just kind of like quietly went away, didn't it?
Yeah, it just at one point wasn't there anymore.
There's sometimes on these shows that are very much like about where this is entirely, because I don't think this show is trying to say green energy is actually bad. What they're saying is that there are people who will use the idea of green energy to make their own like there are people who are involved who see an opportunity out of the green renewable energy field, like Henry Muck, who's actually super rich and doesn't actually care about green energy, to then make a profit off people who think green energy is, and that's the scam. Not necessarily that like green energy in itself is a scam, but sometimes you see a character with blue hair and you're like, are they making fun of us? Are they making fun of people like woke people? That's not what they're doing. I don't know.
I feel like industry's pretty woke. I feel like industry like they
think, have to be. They're all on cocaine. They don't go to sleep.
Yeah, they're just like
they do a lot of drugs, guys. Every time I watch this, I am exhausted by it. I'm like, how? Like, and then you went to work? I could never. I don't know.
I would be like Eric every morning if I was.
Yeah.
When my wife drops off the kids that I'm taking care of.
Yeah, just
he's
like
pretty mad about the insider trading.
Just like changing my shirt and tie, constantly reminding myself that I'm a man. Like I'm a man and I'm relentless every single day I go to work. Yeah.
One last thing, the episode titles. I really like diving into this title. This is just forgive me for the pronunciation of this. Il mattino ha l'oro in bocca.
I think you did great. I got in bocca,
which translates to the morning has gold in its mouth. This is seemingly like a phrase translation of like an idiom or what do we think? What do you think of the episode? The morning has gold in its mouth. Also, like some places were being like there was. If I look it up, there's a movie that is translated to Early Bird Gets the Worm too, which I think is like that's like one of those things where like this is the English title. It's not the direct translation. It's like this is but that's the name of the episode.
It's a German idiom. What?
I don't think that's German. Il mattino ha oro in bocca. I think that's
Morgenstund hat Gold im Mund.
Yeah, that sounds German.
That was really well pronounced.
Thank you, guys.
Definitely German.
That was good.
Guys, I've never taken German. It's a popular German phrase, and there's an Italian expression of it too, guys.
This must be the Italian expression.
Yeah, obviously it's the Italian one. But yeah, very interesting. Yeah, it's an old German proverb.
Yeah,
proverb. Wow, I can speak English really well.
Well, if you can't, you do great in German. I think I think the early bird catches the worm. I think like the day is filled with promise. Like let's go and like it. I think it's really well said. Actually, in different words and like very industry words, and very like Eric Tao words specifically, where he's like, today is the only day that matters, which is, I think an ethos of the show that like that's not exactly true because some tomorrow from now will be the only day that matters.
I think the only person who got gold out of this is a guy named, I think James Ashfield is his name, who sells all of his Lumi stock, he gets all of his equity back.
Yeah,
he invests in the company for like $4.20 on the dollar.
Like, I'm not doing this. Get me out of here.
And he's like, I looked at your numbers and you fudged them. And the Aspen was like, that seems bad. And Eric's like, don't worry about it. Our job is to sell it now and don't worry about what happens next.
But I also think
feels
like
bad.
Well, I also think like this idea that like the day is full of promise and like let's just like work to get that gold, seize it like from like victory from the jaws of defeat kind of idea. And then by the end of the episode, all of that hustle, all of that single-minded hard work just like blinks out with the push of a button.
Everyone, someone is dead, someone got fired, the power went out, Harper can't get a foot in the door at Future Dawn. Everyone is in a bad spot.
Because no one went to bed at the right time. No one got any rest. Everyone was out, debaucherous. Like it was a problem. If all of y'all had like gone home, had some tea after dinner, went to bed at a sensible 9:30, 10 p.m.
Is this one of those proverbs where like, people will be like, no, that's not the full one. You missed the second half, which is like il mattino ha l'ora in bocca, but only if you get a good night's rest.
Yeah.
Is that
I mean, I think this is probably the puritanical spin on it, right? Like the American version of like, but you got to go to bed when the sun goes down. You have to wake up early and harvest.
Gotta go to sleep. All right. Well, why don't we put this podcast to bed? We're going to be doing industry recaps every week. Emily and I are actually about to go on vacay, but the very kind folks at HBO have set us up with screeners for industry, so we will be able to bank some recaps for even while Fox and I are away. So Grace, you can we can do like check-ins on like how our vacation is going.
Okay, great.
But like it won't be accurate to reality, so we can just like be aspirational about it. Will be great. So we're gonna keep this up. It's on We Know Scripted TV, RHAP. Rob has a website. .com/scripted for all the information on how to subscribe to We Know Scripted TV. Watch us on the YouTubes as well. The We Know Scripted TV YouTube page will be providing video versions live after every episode. And by live, I mean pre-recorded because we have vacation coming up, like we said. But eventually we'll be back in a live capacity. And we would love to hear from all of you if you've got feedback. We would love to hear. So we know scripted at gmail.com is an email address where you can send your industry feedback.
Can I give a little? I gave this recommendation to somebody, which is another person, but I think what I like to do for podcasts that I love and I'm subscribed to, I don't just subscribe to it. I set those things to auto download while I'm on my Wi-Fi. So every morning when I wake up, when there's new episode that dropped, it's already downloaded my feed. And then when I take my dog on the walk and I'm listening to, it's already downloaded.
And that's what it's like to have a mouthful of gold.
That's right. The morning has gold in its mouth in the morning when you've auto downloaded your episodes into your feed. So do that.
You get gold in your ears.
Set We Know Scripted TV to be auto download into your feed.
It's an audio medium, Fox. Chill out.
I know. I'm laughing about it because I was like, I don't know if I spun gold this morning.
No, you spun gold for sure. At least
it's actually late at night. So
that's correct. So of course, make sure you're subscribed if you are finding us through any of the Succession feed, anything like that. We Know Scripted TV. That feed has tons of podcasts in addition to industry. Grace Leeder and Taryn Armstrong every week talk about TV on the Tastemakers, where they give reviews of shows that are happening right now, watching everything on TV, providing you with little tastes so you have an idea of what's worth watching and what's worth skipping. We also have TV for Real, where the great Mike Bloom, not Jesse Bloom, alongside Sasha Joseph, talk to reality stars every single week about what they are watching on the scripted TV side of things. We also have the weekend program with myself and the great Antonio Mazzaro every Saturday morning. That drops. It's a different topic every time. It's our TV hangout show. We go to the attic and we talk about TV on Saturday mornings is what we do. Coming up next is the Slow-pranos, the beginning of a remarkably slow Sopranos rewatch. It's going to take us like 7 years to do because we're just going to do it sporadically on Saturday morning. We're talking about the first 5 episodes of the Sopranos. So that should be pretty fun. So we know scripted TV. We know how to have a good time here, Grace.
Is there not there's some rumors of you and Mike Bloom potentially as well. Is that right? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Wow. I was really worried there when you hesitated.
if you find yourself lost on RHAP, we know scripted TV, stick around a little longer because Mike Bloom and I will help you get unlost. I could have said found, but I had to say the word lost now a third time. And because of the show, I had to say it for a fourth. So lost. That's it. Fox, where do people find you online?
You can find me on Instagram at Emilet, like an omelet, but with an E. And that's pretty much it.
You get great vacation content, I think, on the Instagram. So
yeah. Come check me out.
Foodstuffs.
Yes, all the foods.
At Round Howard over here. Grace, where are you?
At Hi from Grace. You can find me on all social media platforms, even the ones I don't really want to be on, but I'm on there anyway.
Yep. Feel that. Yeah. For sure. All right. Well, I guess I'll hit the button and then we'll send the power out on this podcast. Grace, do you want to say goodbye? Send us off.
All right. We'll see you next time. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.